Christian Rao of Locked On Kansas State. We've had this conversation in the past, but now we've gotten through the spring portal season, and we see Kansas State, who finished in the bottom half of the Big 12 in the transfer portal rankings, which, hey, not always the worst thing in the world. There's some positive attrition there and a whole lot of players coming back. If the statement is Kansas State is going to win the Big 12 championship, can you defend that?
Yeah, I absolutely can. And it's not about the transfer portal rankings, because I personally think they killed it in the transfer portal. And one of the biggest reasons why they killed it was not many important players, if any important players, left in the portal. They had retention was absolutely amazing.
I thought Avery Johnson was going to Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those delusional Tennessee fans really thought that was going to be. Come on, man. He's got his own strawberry lemonade NIL. It's delicious. It's great. I had it myself. And he's not going anywhere. Tennessee couldn't make sure they have that strawberry lemonade the way they do at Avery Johnson. But no way. Absolutely. He was not going anywhere. I don't think that was even a thought, to be completely honest. It was fun to have some conversations with those Tennessee trolls on Twitter X, though. I will not lie to you, Drake. But talking about the transfer portal, I think they hit the nail on the head at every position group, especially wide receiver. A lot of people that like to have the argument, and I know you had it on your show talking Big 12 rankings, and I'm going to call you out, Cam Stewart Baylor. I heard that conversation talking bad about Avery Johnson. But the reason why he didn't have such a great season last year, in my opinion, was he had a subpar wide receiver group. I truly think that's going to be a game changer this year. They went after it in the portal. They added some size. They went for absolute size. Jaron Bradley, Jaron Tips. They went after some really big dudes, and they've already have an excellent tight end room that led the nation in red zone touchdowns. Now you add some size to do even more in the red zone. Avery Johnson, a dual threat quarterback who started the season 7-1, had some injuries towards the end of the season. I don't care what anybody says. He was not 100%. And then Dylan Edwards, I think, is one of the most electric running backs in the Big 12. This offensive loan right there, just talking on the offensive side right there, they're going to be in a really great spot when we're talking Big 12 championship contention. And for the record, might I add before I give this mic back to you, we will not have just one Big 12 team in the college football playoffs this year. We will have two. We will have two.
Hopefully three. Come on, don't sell us too short.
At least two. At least two.
There are the weapons. There's Chris Klieman. There's continuity. I think the way that Kansas State played the transfer portal was perfect. I've waxed poetic about them. Iowa State, Arizona State, BYU for all being very selective. Again, positive attrition. Look, if you want to leave, there is the door. And we don't really need to take that many new guys because we don't have that much to replace. I think what we're missing here a bit is the favorable schedule. It's not the worst schedule in the world. Yeah, you got road games against Kansas, Utah, and Oklahoma State, who all might be good. But last year, they weren't. Those were all going to be, they can be really strong. And then they weren't. And then TCU, Texas Tech, those are some key home games. I do circle, though, the Iowa State game off the rib. You can lose that game and still go 11-1. How much weight do you put on the game in Dublin, Ireland? Does that decide the season for one of these two teams?
Oh, I don't think it decides the season, but until the game's over, I think you put all weight in it. There's no doubt about that, because it is the standalone game in America, in the universe, Drake. Yeah. It's not just for the Big 12. It is the opening game for college football for the 2025 season. And I think you have to put every stock in it. And this is an opportunity to silence critics if you're against Avery Johnson, silence critics if you think Kansas State only can get as far as playing Rutgers in the Rate Bowl. This is the opportunity to say that Kansas State is a national title contender, at least a college football playoff contender. It's hard to say in May that you should win the national championship, but I think it's fair assumption to say that you can make the college football playoffs, because just like with basketball, now that we're at this 12 team and eventually going to be 16 teams, if you get to the dance, anything's possible. We saw Arizona State. They should have made it another round after playing Texas. We saw that should have happened last year. We saw BYU should have been in the college football playoffs last year as well. If you make the dance, anything is possible. And I think that stands with the 12-team playoff as well. But yeah, when you look at this game against Iowa State, myself and Nick Maravitz have had quite the conversations over on Locked On Kansas State, doing crossovers, the host of Locked On Cyclones. I think that's going to be a coin flip. I really do. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think Iowa State has reloaded quite well as well. Wide receivers could be an issue with Iowa State because of their everybody leaving to the Houston Texans apparently. But other than that, I think this is going to be a really good game to start off. And when you look at the schedule, you talk about some of the road games, you talk about, some of the favorable schedule. One that you didn't mention, and I'm surprised out of all people who didn't mention it, the one that scares me the most is at Baylor. Baylor's the game that is, and it's in the middle of the schedule. That's the one that I'm kind of banking that one as an L for Kansas State.
People love those Baylor Bears. I'm leaving myself out of that. I'm recusing myself from the Baylor conversation. I've been bitten too many times by. They were my, Big 12 champions a couple of years ago, in a year that they're coming off the title, returning a whole lot of their team. They finished 6-6. They kind of a falling out at the end of the season, finished 6-6, and I would be surprised, but they're one key injury away from having that happen again. That key injury would be Sawyer Robertson. Now, you can't judge a team off of a fake injury. I know. But I'm holding out on the Baylor Bears so far. I think there are a couple of other Big 12 schools, the parity of this league, who will step it up and play a major role in this conference at the top when the title race heatens up. Speaking of that, who do you think it will be? Who are the schools that you circle, whether Kansas State plays them or not, that should be in Arlington alongside the Wildcats when things kick off in December?
Yeah, if I had to just pick one, and this is the one that I've been sticking through this entire offseason, nothing's changed so far, it's BYU. And it's because that we don't have them on the schedule. And I think BYU has done a fantastic job what they did last year. I think they're going to figure out their offensive woes that happened towards the end of the season last year as well, going into this new year. I have Kansas State finishing the season 10-2, and I have them taking on BYU in the Big 12 championship. That is my early prediction. It hasn't gone anywhere since the last time we spoke. And as of right now, if I had to give two losses, I'm going to say one of the losses to Kansas State is at Baylor. And then I'm going to say, to me, I feel it's weird, but either one of those against Oklahoma State or against Utah, those two road games back to back towards the end of the season. Look, we've been watching the Big 12 for years. We know how this goes. Last year in the media poll, Arizona State finished last. In 2022, when TCU went to the national championship, they were predicted 7th in the Big 12 media poll, and they found themselves in the national championship. There's so much parity in this league. Oklahoma State and Utah will not be at the bottom again. It just won't happen. They will find a way to, maybe they won't be at the top, but they're not going to be as bad as they were last year. They'll find some improvements. And I think that makes me a little nervous towards the end of the season because they'll seem like teams that might figure it out as the season progresses. So that's where I got my two losses for Kansas State. 10-2 though, against those BYU Cougars.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting finish of the season if those two meet in Arlington. And 10-2 is probably Big 12 championship worthy. That's the way the league goes right now, and it's the way the league will go probably for the two teams that square off in the championship game. I also don't hate the idea of a loss at Utah. If there's one school in this league that will have a bounce back year, I don't think Kyle Whittingham has lost his fastball. Mike Gundy might have. He might have. I don't think Whittingham is there yet. I'm not doom and gloom about him yet. This could be a year in which Utah gets ultimate redemption and sneaks up on a team like Kansas State or a couple of others in the Big 12 and finds themselves in the hunt later in the year. Christian, where can folks, listeners of Locked On Big 12, find more of your work?
Well, you can always find me on Twitter X at LockedOnKState. That's where I'm dropping just little nuggets about recruiting, all that good stuff, and just everything about the Cats. I'll always talk in there, and then you can always find me on Twitter at on YouTube at Locked On Kansas State, or everywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. We are bringing the Kansas State Wildcat coverage like no one else. Your team every day.
This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. A crossover with Kansas State and Dose Grande.